One of our theme gardens for 2005 is a collection of plants in the mallow family, kind of like marshmallows, but it's also known as the Malvaceae or the hibiscus family. And these plants are a group of plants that make up about 95 different genera. There are herbaceous annuals, there are perennials, there are woody shrubs, even a few trees. Well, these different plants have different shapes and colors of flowers, but they do share some common characteristics, especially in the reproductive parts of the flower. Well, I've got some hibiscus flowers here that I've kind of torn apart a little bit, just removed some of the petals, and I just want to show you right here with all the little yellow pollen, those are the anthers. And those anthers, of course, are attached to a little filament, like a little stick, and all of those filaments are attached to this long tube here. And that little tube is called the stamen tube, or the stamen column. But it does make an interesting tube there in the center of the flower. We're up here at the top, you can see some different structures. Those are the female parts of the flower. Those are the pistils. And on this plant, that I've cut away part of the petals, we can see that there's actually a tube inside the tube. And that is known as the style tube. But I've kind of cut away the stamen tube, and the style tube is there inside, and that continues up inside. And up at the top, it branches. So we have these style branches, and at the very ends of the style branches are the stigmas. And that is where the pollen attaches and the pollination or the fertilization occurs. Those pollen grains will germinate, they will grow down the style, down here to the ovary, down here at the base. And that is what develops into the fruit, or the seed pod. But all of the hibiscus family plants have these characteristics, very unique for this group of plants. Well, I want to show you some of the plants in our hibiscus family garden, and starting with this one back here, this is called red shield hibiscus. It is a tropical plant from Central and Eastern Africa. It's not winter hardy here, but it makes a great ornamental for the color of the foliage. The variety is known as copper tone, and it gives us a really rich purplish red here in the garden. It doesn't flower much during the growing season. We have these flower in the greenhouse during the wintertime, little purplish red flowers, but the foliage is definitely the main reason to grow this plant. And you can see it does get quite tall in the garden, the red shield hibiscus. Well, there are a number of plants in the hibiscus family that are important for several reasons. Okra is in the hibiscus family. If you look at the flowers here, you can see that hibiscus type flower, and again we got that stamen tube with all those little anthers and the stigmas up at the top there, not really coming quite out of the tube as in that other hibiscus flower, but you can see those little purple stigmas there. But I got several okra pods or fruits coming off here. Some of these are really too large and should definitely be harvested by the time they get that big, but this is a good size to harvest your okra. Okra is important here in Oklahoma because it is our state vegetable. In fact, in Shakota every year we have an okra festival. But okra, another plant in the hibiscus family. Well, right here we have another important plant, an economically important plant in the hibiscus family. This is cotton. And this one has purple leaves, and it's more of an ornamental variety of cotton. The typical cotton plants will have green leaves. We don't have any flowers open this morning, but you can see several flower buds here. They got these interesting bracts that kind of enclose the flower bud. Kind of peel those away, and you can see that typical flower bud there, looking like it's getting ready to open. Have little pink, whitish, or pinkish flowers. But those flowers develop into a fruit pod. We've got one right down here. It's still a small one. This will get a little bit larger, but this is the seed pod, or the fruit of the cotton plant. We call this a boll, a cotton boll. And once that is ripe, it will burst open like we've got going on right here. You can see that fruit pod that's split open, and we have cotton. So we can come out here and pick cotton if we wanted to. Now, cotton seeds are contained inside all of these woody hairs. I'll just break that plant right there. It'll grow back, but I'll kind of pull some of these fibers or these hairs out of the way. You can see the cotton seed right there. But when cotton is harvested and processed, these seeds are removed, and all of this hair is spun into yarn or thread. That's how we get a lot of our cotton clothing. Or actually, all of our cotton clothing comes from the fibers of the cotton plant. Another important plant, a plant that Laura, our studio garden manager, really likes, is the Marsh Mallow plant. And we've got this plant growing right here. You can see it's bloomed quite a bit here, so we've got a lot of empty seed pods, but right back here we've got some flowers of the Marsh Mallow. And if you've ever been camping and made s'mores or roasted marshmallows, they're named for this plant. Now the marshmallows, like Laura was eating earlier, aren't made from this plant anymore. They're made mainly of corn syrup, sugar, and gelatin. But originally, the plants that were used to make marshmallows were this plant, and the roots had the sap extracted and was used in place of the gelatin. So the marshmallow, a mallow that grows in marshy areas, and the original plant used to make the marshmallows. Well, the hibiscus flowers are definitely some of the showier flowers in our garden this year, and we've got some plants in the genus Hibiscus that I want to show you here. These are known as rose mallows or hardy hibiscus, and they range in size from a few inches to several inches across. They have really bright colors, everything from whites to pinks to reds, and lots of colors in between. Right back here, we've got one of the Galaxy series of the hardy hibiscus or rose mallow, and just look at that intense color and that large bloom. And again, you see that typical hibiscus arrangement of the floral structures there in the center. These are very hardy plants. These can grow all the way up to zone 5, so even in Illinois, people can enjoy the hardy hibiscus. There are a few of these plants, a few species, that are actually native to Oklahoma. This is one called the clown, and I don't know if it makes you laugh, but it's definitely giving this little bee here some nectar down there at the bottom. Interesting bicolor with this pale pink and the dark pink eye down inside. Right down here I've got a few of my favorite hardy hibiscus plants. This one is known as Lord Baltimore, and it's a tall perennial hibiscus and has these beautiful bright red flowers, and they're produced in a great profusion. Right over here I've got a really large variety. This one's known as Moe Grande, and you might be thinking that I meant to say Muy Grande, as in Spanish for very big, but this is actually Moe, M-O-Y, Moe Grande. It was named for Dr. Moe at the San Antonio Botanical Garden, who developed it. But it's supposed to be the largest of the hibiscus flowers, Moe Grande hibiscus. Right down here we've got some plants that bloomed earlier in the spring. This is a little globe mallow. These are native to the western, kind of the southwestern part of the United States. The foliage, you can see, has a little bit of a silvery color to it, and in the springtime these have beautiful orange flowers. Right back here we have another native plant in the hibiscus family. This is the poppy mallow, sometimes called wine cup. They bloom in the springtime, those bright reddish purple blooms. These all grow from a carrot-like taproot, and they just sort of make these vines that kind of spread out on the ground, and once it gets hot and dry they will go dormant, and then in the fall, whenever it cools off, we get some cool rains, they'll start to sprout back again like this one is doing. Right here at the end of this garden is a plant that a lot of you are probably familiar with. This is the tropical hibiscus. You can see it's got these sort of glossy leaves. This is sometimes known as the China rose hibiscus, but this is a group of plants that the hybridizers have kind of gone nuts with lately. They've developed so many different hybrids and different colors and shapes and sizes and blooms. This one's known as Cashmere Wind. It's got a beautiful peach-colored flower. We have several other interesting plants in our hibiscus family garden. Right here we have an abutilon. Now these are sometimes referred to as flowering maples, but a lot of us that are horticulturists don't really like that name, flowering maples, because they're not maples at all. They're in the hibiscus family, but the leaves sort of look like the leaves of a maple, and the abutilons give us these beautiful flowers. Interesting the way they're sort of round or goblet shaped. This particular variety is called voodoo for these really dark red petals. The flowering maples or abutilons are tender plants. They're not winter hardy in Oklahoma, so these are used as either bedding plants or for use in containers. They come in colors of whites, pinks, oranges, yellows, lots of different colors. Well, right back here we have another plant in the genus Hibiscus. This is Hibiscus coccinea, and this is the Texas star hibiscus, and I think you can kind of see how it gets its name. It's got the 5 petals that are sort of star-shaped, and then if we look kind of in the gaps of the petal, we see sort of a green star there from the calyces of the plant. But the Texas star hibiscus is a plant that we have out in our bog garden. It gets quite tall. You can see here that's getting close to 6 feet tall, but they can get even a little bit taller than that, and like moist conditions. Hibiscus coccinea. Another hardy hibiscus relative we have right here is the Turk's cap, sometimes referred to as Turk's cap mallow. And I can show you the detail. Let's look at this flower right here, and it's interesting. It's got that same staminal tube, and right here in this flower it extends above the petals, and the petals never really open. They sort of stay collapsed around that stamen tube there. But very beautiful flowers, bright red. They attract hummingbirds to the garden. This is a hardy plant, hardy to zone 7. We've enjoyed one here at our studio gardens for about 8 years now, and it's a plant that can be grown in either sun or shade. Now out in the sun, the leaves of the plant sort of take on this crinkled appearance, but in the shade, and I'll try to find a leaf down here, in the shade they're more of a flat surface, have more of a flat surface to them. The Turk's cap mallow, an interesting hardy plant for sun or shade. It would be hard to talk about plants in the hibiscus family garden without talking about hollyhocks, and I've got a traditional old-fashioned hollyhock right down here, but right here I've got a plant that a lot of people refer to as the perennial hollyhock mallow. This is Malva sylvestris. I can pull this stem up here so you can see the flower a little bit better. The particular cultivar here is known as zebrina, and kind of like zebra. Zebras have stripes. This flower has stripes. You can see the different color of purple in the petals of the Malva sylvestris, perennial hollyhock mallow. These make great perennials for Oklahoma. I love the fact that they flower during July and August. Well, right up here we've got one of the typical hollyhock type flowers. A lot of people may not realize hollyhocks are in the hibiscus family. This is a dwarf one known as Majorette, and here in Oklahoma, by the end of the summer, a lot of our hollyhocks are looking a little tired, a little worn out, and they behave more like biennials or even annuals in Oklahoma, where it gets so hot in the summertime, hot and dry. Now up north, the hollyhocks will be more like perennials. They will behave more like perennials in the northern states where it's a little bit cooler. Occasionally we'll have some that'll overwinter and survive for a few years, but it's okay to just enjoy them when they germinate in the fall, grow through the winter, and then bloom in the spring and set seed in the summer and do it all again. Well, the last plant I want to show you in this garden is right down here. This is the Rose of Sharon, or Althea, Hibiscus syriacus. And it looks a little misleading. It looks like a small plant, but this is one of the largest plants in the hibiscus family that we can grow here in Oklahoma. These can actually grow into large shrubs or small trees. But this particular one is called blue satin, and you can see that beautiful blue color to the flower with that dark purplish red throat. Now, some people will give us a call occasionally and talk about their flower buds dropping off of their Rose of Sharon before they open, and this is really pretty common for this plant. They produce more flower buds than they can develop into seeds. So sometimes late in the summer, as they're producing a lot of these flower buds, it starts getting hot and dry, they will abort a good number of these flower buds and put their energy into just a few to develop seeds. So if you see buds falling from your Rose of Sharon, nothing to get alarmed about. This is just a normal thing these plants do. For those gardeners out in the western part of the state, you may experience some chlorosis with your Rose of Sharon because they don't like the high alkaline soils or the soils with high pH. Those problems can be taken care of with the addition of some supplemental iron or by applying sulfur to make the soil a little more acidic. Well, the next time you're eating okra or eating marshmallows or wearing a pair of blue jeans, you can think about the Hibiscus family and the wonderful diversity that this family portrays.